Hello, you're live. Let's see what we got going on here. Welcome, everybody, to our Monday Night Moshiach here. My apologies, I'm a few minutes late. We want to dedicate tonight's learning to the victims of the recent horrible tragedy that took place in Surfside. The victims, their families, should have only revealed good and ultimate good for all of us. Moshiach Now. All right, let's get cracking here. So tonight's Sikha is a double parsha. It's Matos Umasai. They're combined together, and let's get going. Aleph. מנינים המיוחדים ביום השבת קודש זה, שבו מסיימים בספר במדבר, בספר רביעי בתורה, שסיימים מהווה גם סיום כל התורה. In addition, Aleichem Shalom, Rav Dober. Rav Moshe, I should say. In addition to this being a combined parsha of Matos and Masai, it is also the end of the book of Midbar. The final book of the fourth book of the Torah, as we prepare for the fifth book of the Torah, which is known as Mishnah Torah, which is Shechazor L'Chadus Davar from Shulchan. That which basically is a recounting from Moshe of the four books of the Torah that took place previous to that. And of course, we announced in Shabbos, in Shul's this Shabbos, Hazak, Hazak, V'nit Chazek. Which is indicative of the strength and the power of the Jewish people in all the matters of the Torah. We say it every time we finish one of the five books of the Torah, excuse me. Chazek, Gufa, who, Gimel Pa'amim, and we know that we say three times, Hazak, Hazak, V'nit Chazek. We should be strong, you should be strong and strengthen others. And we know that three times is indicative of a Hazaka, or something that indicates permanence in Judaism. And when we say you should be strong three times, it's indicating a permanent strength that's given forth to the Jewish people to finish up our task here in the world. It's necessary to understand the relevance to the fact that we're doing this, that we're completing the fourth book of the Torah, and we're indicating that we should be strengthened, and how that's connected specifically to our times that we're in. That we always complete the fourth book of the Torah during the period of the 3 weeks that we're in now, the 3 weeks of narrowness, challenging times that have fallen on the Jewish people. But we learned 2 weeks ago that now that the Frierdiker Rebbe was redeemed on Gimel Tammuz, and actually came out on Yud Beis Yud Gimel Tammuz, that we are now, these 3 weeks, including the 17th of Tammuz, have all been elevated to times now of good, because the inner dimension of these weeks of suffering is now being revealed as good. Even though, unfortunately, it appears as of recent events, it seems to be the opposite. And I wish I had answers, and I think Hashem has to explain himself why we keep seeing so much negativity if, in fact, everything has been transformed to good. It's beyond my pay grade, but I guess Hashem will explain that to us, hopefully very soon. כמה שנים בשנה בשבס הראשון שבתשעת ימים ולכאורה הזמן לגימל שבס בפרט 9 ימים קשורים לאמור מצב של הלישוס בקדושה ההפך בתחת הזק הזק. Now we are not only in the 3 weeks, but we are readily approaching the 9 days. And when the Sikha was given, they were already in the 9 days. And these are a time of weakness for the Jewish people, where the holiness is on a weaker level. So the Rebbe said, how could it be that we always complete the fourth book of the Torah and announce Hazak, we need to stay. Anit chazek, that we should be strong and strengthen others during a time when historically it's a time of weakness for us, and a time that we're not at a strong period as a nation. Seems like an opposite. כיוון שזמן זה כאשר אם אמור מצב שהחלישוס מודגש יוצר הצורך וההכרח חזק ונתחזק, אבל יוצר נברא למען התחזק עצמו כאשר אם תכנון של הזמן כמודגש בשמו של יום השבת. שבת חזק, היינו שהשבת זה הוא החיזוק So this is specifically called Shabbat Hazak. We're in a time of supposed mourning during this 3 week, and in a time of weakness of the Jewish people. And yet this is Shabbat Hazak, and it serves as a strengthening for all of our deeds and all our Torah learning and fulfilling in mitzvahs in general. So it seems like a contradiction that we're having a Shabbos of strengthening during a time that is historically known as a time of weakening. So let us explore. Base. V'yovan b'hagdim habira b'hakesher b'hashaychas hazak v'chazak v'nitchazek v'toichen ha'parsha shebo mesiyamim ha'sefer parshas matzos u'mas. And we can understand this first by prefacing the fact that we are reading Hazak Unit after we complete the 4th book, which completes with the parshas of Matos Umasai, which we're in right now. And therefore it includes the strengthening of Matos and the strengthening of Masai. Matos and Masai, and also a strengthening of both of them as they are combined together. Inyan ha'chayzer chazak, v'pragim upamim chazak shayach nematos. So first of all, we see the concept of chazak, and specifically 3 times chazak, strengthening, and that it is relevant, it seems to be, to parshas of matos. Because what does matos stand for? A mateh is a staff. Not like that works for you, but like something that's strong, like a stick. Which is indicative of something that is strong and powerful because it doesn't bend, it doesn't flex, it doesn't move, it's hard, it doesn't change. The dugma samate pshuto shu chazak v'kashya. Va'oid shematehu lashon m'mashala shurara kalashon hakasu matot ois El Shvati Musholim. And it also is referring to matet, to the concept of ruling over someone else, like from this a staff of rulership. Both of these indicative of something that is very strong and powerful, that doesn't move, it doesn't bend, it doesn't flex. On the other hand, Parsha Enkin Masai, next week's Parsha Masai, which is travels. Which is indicative of going and traveling and moving. From place to place. And this whole concept of going and traveling from one place to another seems to be the complete opposite of something that is strengthening. Because it's known that when we travel, when we go from place to place, it causes a weakening. We get out of the car after a road trip or after getting off the airplane. That's without even doing anything. It's just sitting. When we're moving from place to place, especially when we've got to set up and undo things and reset up and take down the camp and set up the camp, that's not a strong thing. That's a weakening thing. That makes you tired. That doesn't strengthen you. That seems to be the opposite of strengthening, matos, which means ma'aseh, which means to travel. משמע שהתוכן חזק ונתחזק שייך בעיקר להפרשת מסע. אלא בכמה שני Sarafim Gam Parshas Matos. But as a matter of fact, sometimes Parshas Masai is read by itself. So it's not combined with Parshas Matos. And when we say Chazak, Chazak, Nitazek, we say it specifically at the end of Parshas Masai, sometimes combined with Parshas Matos, and sometimes on its own. So the strengthening that we're talking about is not only coming during the 3 weeks, and usually during the 9 days, which is at our weakest points as a nation. It's also coming after the Parsha of Masai, which is a Parsha that's all about weakening, about traveling and going and schlepping and schlepping and schlepping. So we see even stronger this concept of what appears to be opposite realities taking place. Gimel. Here's the water Biro Bezer. Of course, we need to delve into this and explain. We've got to explain what is going on so we can understand even better. Hazaka, she b'mispar shalosh. We know the concept. I don't know. I'm not talking today. The concept of hazaka, of strengthening, is specifically connected to the number 3. Rapat hazaka v'shaloshes. Specifically, we see that in a triangle, which has 3 sides. Madigisha, achayzik v'teichef, gam makom sheyesh meneged. Kiyadua, shemispar achad nura'a ma'amor matzav sheis matchila, rak toiv v'kadosh. When we start with one side, we have something that is holy, something that is strong, something that is good. There's no opposition. And then we add number 2, mura'a hamalachas. Once we add a second side, now we introduce the concept of opposition, something that stands in complete opposites to one another. And the number 3 is indicative of the total of strengthening of Kedusha, because it is now a power that unifies 2 opposites. And the strength and power of the number 3, we see it in 2 different ways. 1, from above. Indicative of the strength and power that is drawn down the light of a holiness from above. In all places, even in a place where there's opposition, because nothing stands in the way of God. And when God brings something down from above, that's it. It has the power to come down, regardless of what's, in its way. And the advantage is in the light, which is in a state of bli gavul. Bli gavul meaning no limitations, an unbound light that doesn't reckon with anything in its way. Second, mitzad hatachton, we see from the lower side, which is the service of elevating the lower worlds. In a strong way. To nullify any type of opposition. And even more than this, to transform it into something holy. Look, in here. But based on finding and both of these ways are hinted at in the strengthening that we have just learned about in Parshas Matos and Masa. Chazak, the Parshas Matos, the strength of Parshas Matos, which is connected to the power and strength from above. And that Moshe spoke to the heads of the tribes. These are words that were commanded from Hashem. And the power and strength that is drawn down through the commandment of Hashem, also into a place of that there's something that's potentially opposing it, because the light of Bli Gvul doesn't reckon with anything. It has the power to nullify anything. So this is the godly energy, the godly power that descends from above, from Hashem, that's connected to Parshas Matos. Now we have the strength connected to Parshas Masai. This is indicative of the strength that comes from below. These are the journeys of the Jewish people that they went out from Egypt. This is the strengthening, the power, and the service of the Yidden in rectifying and elevating the lower worlds. השינויים והחילוקי הדרגס שבפרטים במעשות במדבר לפני ערך מאמור המצב של התחתונים נמצאים תמיד בתנועה של הליכה ונסיעה ממצרים, ארץ ישראל. And this is a strengthening, as we said, of the work of the Yidden in rectifying the lower part of the world, even though there's change and division in different levels of their journeys in the desert, and according to how they're moving and traversing the land in the lower worlds, they still find continuously they're in a state of movements and going as they went out of Egypt to the Holy Land. And according to this, we can understand the relevance to strength and traveling. Since the strengthening is in a place where there is opposition, and it's felt even more while rectifying and refining the world. To coin the phrase of Nietzsche, that which does not kill me will only make me stronger. In other words, opposition is what gives us strength. So even though they are traveling around and they're quote unquote being weakened, every one of our journeys in life reveal a deeper essence and a deeper layer of our character, of who we really are. שלא זה בדבר שהחוזק והתכף תואר הקדוש הנמשך מאיר בכל מקום הבלי יתחשב במציאות המנגד. And according to this, there's an excellent already said that, because not only is the strengthening and power of the light of holiness that is drawn down and shining in all places without considering the existence of an opposition, but furthermore, Yishna is the battle Makal. There's a special strength in dealing with the opposition and nullifying it and transforming it to Kedusha. In other words, through opposition, a higher strength is reached. I'll make myself a little footnote here. If you just be with me for 1 second. Let me get myself together here. Okay. Right. Okay. So we're talking about the different levels of strength. So the first level of strength is from above. That's represented in Parshas Matos. This is the strength that comes from a God. So let's just talk about this briefly in our individual lives. A strength from God, meaning we've all been there before, where God literally, we're always empowered by God. We can't do anything without God. But we have stages in our life where everything just kind of nullifies. It's like a classic example is a beginning Baal Tshuva. A beginning Baal Tshuva is like Superman, right? Like we're flying. It's like, because there's so much assistance from above. Because it says in the Gemara, if you open up a hole for me the size of a needle, I'll rip it open. That's what Hashem says. The concept of tshuva, when you return to God in the beginning stages, in true and sincere tshuva, God helps you unbelievably. Because that divine light that is coming down from above is so powerful that nothing can stand in its way. That's one level of strength. But another level of strength we're talking about is strength that comes from below. And that strength comes specifically when God is not revealed, but when he's concealed. Meaning when we're going through opposition in our life. And when we muster the inner power within us to overcome the opposition to holiness, to serving Hashem. And we harness that energy from the opposition and transform the opposition. This is a higher state of strength, if you will. Okay. And of course, the ultimate strength is when we unify both of these powers. The strength from above, the godly power, and the strength from below, our power, if you will. Hazak hamatos yesh bo ma'alis or hakadusha shulamayla mahamagbala. When we take the power of matos, which is the strength from above, that we said with no opposition, because it's godly energy and nothing can stand in its way, and we combine that with the strength of maseh, yesh bo ma'alis a bit of mineged abali he yois mitzara tachton shein bo hateicha habliti mubah yoin. And this is coming the power from below, that we're using the strength from above in a way of boundaries and limitations in order to form the opposition, if you will. And the advantage is both, because now we have the concept of two advantages. The power and strength of drawing down the divine energy from above without any boundaries or limitations. And the strength and power that comes from using this divine power to nullify any opposition that stands in our way. And the Rebbe said, when we combine both of these powers, we have the ability to totally nullify any opposition in a way that's eternal and permanent. Nothing can stand in the way of a Jew that is utilizing his godly power and abilities for the sake of Shemaim, and anything can be nullified. Okay, Dalit. And the Rebbe says this completion is indicative of 4 specifically. And we see the connection to the completion of the 4th book of the Torah. Even though the number 3 is indicative of strength, Hazaka is going on 3. We see the number 3, even though it's completing the 2 opposites of 1 and 2, it's still connected to the 1 and 2 because it's taking them both together. But true completion is, true power comes from the number 4, the Rebbe says. Because there's a level that stands in and of itself, over and above the 2 below it. In other words, 1 and 2 are combined through 3. But 3 has a relevance to 1 and 2 because it's right after that. But 4 is now taking the 1 and 2, combining them both together in the power of 3, and then encompassing all of it. This is emphasizing the completion of true resting of true completion, we see this in a chair. A chair with 4 legs obviously is a lot sturdier than a chair with 3 legs. And we can also emphasize even more the relevance now from 4 to 5. Because if we're going to 3 to 4, might as well go to 5. All about moving on up. Because not only are we finishing up the 4th book of the Torah on Shabbos, but we're starting the 5th book. And also, we see that we're entering into the 5th book of the Torah in the 5th month. Menachem Av is the 5th month, of course, when we're counting from Pesach. Kiyodua, shechamishi, that the number 5 is a level that is completely above from any boundaries or limitations. Even above the chain of creation, which is through 4 worlds in Bia. And this is indicative of the 5th lights, the 5th level of power, as we learned earlier in Parshas Bo, in Nun Beis, about the tremendous energy that's represented by the power of Klippa and the holiness behind him. Is Piruyo Vizgalim, Minekal Noharim, as the Zohar describes, these uncontrollable wild lights of Tohu, of chaos. And this power specifically has the ability to unify 2 lines of drawing down and elevating. But Takvis Shlemus in the ultimate completion. Because 5 is representative of a number that is completely above even a reckoning of the 4 below, of the worlds below. Okay, hey. Also, the Revisi Yasima Beshadas Parshas Matus Umasai, the Techan Azman, the Gimel Shavuos. Okay, Vagdam. We're now in the middle of counting the 3 weeks. Shekavan, Betachlis Horban Mahagolus. We know that the ultimate intention of the destruction of the exile, which needs to come to an end already. Oh, bringing back some memories. There's a little footnote in the margin here that a dear friend gave me these Sfarim, the Devar Malchus series with the explanations in Hebrew. I think 15 years ago. I was in yeshiva. And so I have some notes in the margin, and this note over here says, stay at the Kotel for the 9th of Av. And that was, I don't remember what year, but I stayed over at the Kotel for the 9th of Av. Okay. Just a little stroll down memory lane. That the ultimate intention of the destruction of the Gullus is, in order to elevate and complete and build the 3rd Beis Hamikdash in the future to come, the ultimate Beis Hamikdash. And then we'll have the complete emphasis of this concept of chazaka, of strengthening the Beis Hamikdash Shlishi, because then we'll have the 3rd temple, which we know will be an eternal temple, forever and ever and ever, never to be destroyed. So let's explain a little bit deeper. The advantage of the future temple that Hashem will establish with his own hands. Amra kava ashir sayam benoga lebinyan beis hamikdash shayu tzricha levano is hava kenisa le'eretz hatechaf miyad k'mrazo edo zayisra kevan sha'ala parsais regleihem min hayam hayor nektasin la'aretz va'az yenektas la'aretz va'oifen shel va'ola nitchi she'im achri gadlus v'bina beis hamikdash. We know that the third temple is going to be an eternal temple. There'll be no exile after. It will exist forever and ever and ever and ever. There's to say that every matter in the Torah is eternal truth. ונדון ורידן אלו זכר ישנה גם עתה אין דוגל הנצחית בבית המקדש שלישי באופן שחזק ותוכן אלו שחזק ותוכן שלהם הוא מצר היום בלבד ולא כי בעלמא של התחתונים ישנה מצר של חורבן בגלוס. We see in the first base of Mikdash it wasn't complete because it was mostly, we would say, it came from above. And therefore, the power that came from below wasn't refined yet, and therefore the first base of Mikdash got destroyed. The Eilich lo maspik hachayzik v'takavura b'nyan base of Mikdash mitzad hatachton l'relvad. Tovat lekevan shehatachtoinu medar u'megbal hachazak hazak shabal v'hadin ha'bal v'lo v'finitzchi. And we see the same thing with the second temple. The second temple is dominantly built by man and was missing many of the things that were in the first temple. And therefore, also was destroyed because it didn't have the power from above. And therefore we have to incorporate both of these advantages. The strength and the power of the redemption of the base of Mikdash from above, and also from the lower, both of them unified together. And the result will be the third temple, which will be an eternal temple that will exist forever and ever and ever. And this is the difference between the first two temples and the third temple. By Rishon, the first temple, which was built through Shlomo HaMelech. And the Kivan that it was mostly from above. And we know that Shlomo was sitting on the chair of God. And it was mostly connected to what we say is the service of tzaddikim. It came in a state of completion from above. And therefore, because it wasn't complete below, it was destroyed. And also at the second temple, by a Sheni, mostly built through Ezra. Which mostly was connected to the lower world. And this was mostly connected to the service of Baal Teshuvos, the work from below to above. And therefore this one also got destroyed. It was missing 5 things that the first base of Mikdash had. And it didn't have the power from above. It was more connected to the lower worlds. And of course, the ultimate goal is the third, which takes place in the true and complete redemption, which will unify and combine the upper and the lower worlds and have the advantages of the first and second temples. And will have the ultimate advantage of being eternal, since it will infuse both of these energies, upper and lower. Let's just do a time check. I'm pretty sure it's a short sikha tonight. 4:27. Yeah. 20, 37. Nice. All right, yeah. We even have our early landing. The advantage and strength of the third temple would gashes of a kof shugulamiti ashesida nikra lefa'amin b'shem go'ula revis dagam yichara b'finatzma kivan she'eno behem shela acham b'shneim would gashi hila ma'ra mahagdirim yom tachtain looking at all the yom tachtain. We'll have all the advantages of the upper and all the advantages of the lower, and therefore it will exist forever. Zion. The Indian Zamugash Shabbos Chazak. The Sefer Rebbe East should be made Bein HaMitzri. And we see the connection to Shabbos Chazak with the fourth book of the Torah that we're completing. Achriza Chazak Chazak Minit Chazek Shabbos Pashas Matos Masei Rumezes Chazak and the Beis Hamikdash Shlishi V'Gula Shlishi. The Chazak that we're saying this week is indicative and hinting on the third temple. Because afterwards, standing after the destruction of the first and second temple, and we're now approaching the unification and rectification of both of them. Ever notice that there's 2 world wars? And Chas v'Shalom, everyone's talking about the potential of a third world war, and this shadows the first and second temples, and the destruction of the first temple and the destruction of the second temple. And while we're in the process of doing good to bring about the third temple, the Zela Omodzeh, the forces that are opposite of good, are doing everything in their power to bring about destruction, and bring about another world war. Again, you see the 3 corresponding to the 3. Shemarachami. Shemora all darkest b'fnei atzmo shlemar legamri mahagedrim l'yom v'tachton shal den nasa chibara yom tachton b'yitzim geshati. We see that as we're completing the fourth book of the Torah, as we said earlier, the number 4 is indicative of a completion higher than the number 3 because it is completely above it. As we're completing the fourth book of the Torah, all Sefer Revi'i. Begimla Hashivois, Merumazes, Amar, the Beis Hamikdash Hashish, Begula Hashlishis, Machodesh Revi'is, Gula Revi'is, Machodesh Chamish, Gula Chamishis. And we see that we're entering in the 5th month, and now we're emphasizing the number 5, as we said earlier. And all of this together, the Rebbe said, should strengthen our observance in Torah and mitzvahs. Specifically, this is connected to our deeds and our service throughout the time of the Galus. And this will bring about the strengthening of the true and complete redemption. The eternal redemption, and the Beis Hamikdash that will be eternal. Okay, now we have a little bit of an asterisk, which means we're going to change up the flow, if you will, of the Sikha into a different topic, but of course they all come together. Ches. Ini noise b'Shabbat zeh hakashrim erev Shabbos. Mishetrach erev Shabbos yochol b'Shabbat. Shochol b'Rosh Chodesh Menachamav. Mufrash b'Kara b'Parshasei. Ya'ah aharein hakoyin. All har. V'yamayit sham. B'Chodesh HaChamishi b'Echad LaChodesh. Yom Helul Sha'ar Nakoyin. The Rosh Chodesh Menachamav is the day of the Helula, the elevating of the soul of Aaron HaKohen. Vagdama. She'emin zeh ksiyon hamisa nifrash b'Torah shekasuf. The This is something unique in the Torah, that the Torah specifically mentions the date of the passing of one of the primary figures of our Torah. It says in the 5th month, in the 1st day, talking about the passing of Aaron HaKohen. We don't see that in reference to we don't see it in reference to Moshe, to a lot of the other big players of the Torah, if you will. Only specific to Aaron. That on the day of someone's passing, all their good deeds and all their Torah learning and all the work they did in this world elevates and becomes revealed from above to below, all the way down to the lowest world. So it's a very, very powerful day. Rosh Chodesh, which takes place on Shabbos, if I'm not mistaken. That is correct. Next Shabbos is, wow, that's powerful. It's Rosh Chodesh Wanachamav, Shabbos, it's the Hilula of Aaron HaKohen. Strong day. Tess. We see, as we just said, that the day of his passing is a day where the completion of his service gets drawn down into this world. See, that all the Jewish people cried for 30 days over the passing of Aaron. My wife always gets upset when she learns this because she's like, what about Moshe? They don't say the day Moshe passed. No one cried for Moshe for 30 days. Not to take away from Aaron's significance, but you would think that you'd see the same thing from Moshe Rabbeinu. I mean, it's the 5 books of Moshe, not the 5 books of Aaron. Anywho, men, women, and children were crying. The fish ha'arayin redef shaloyin umimela avahu u'v'lashon ha'mishnah. That Aaron loved peace and pursued peace. And it says, and he brought the creations close to the Torah, even those that were the furthest away. The hemshech le'zemnat ma'av yishma ha'kanani shma shemet ha'arayin distalchu inine ha'kavoi. All that example pashasena le'hemshech le'mitis. That we know that the Aaron HaKohen was responsible for the clouds of glory following the Jewish people. That was in his merits. That the advantage of the clouds of glory is attributed to the merit of Aaron. That we had, through the merit of Miriam, Moshe, and Aaron, the Jewish people survived in the desert. The man, which was given from the heaven, Nitain b'Medina Hadbala, I made the Gilgalas. The water, which was given from the well, both of those represent something that was bound or measured. In other words, the man, which is attributed to Moshe Rabbeinu, everyone got measured at exactly what they needed. The water, which was attributed to Miriam, everyone got exactly the amount of water that they needed to survive. But this is not the case with the clouds of glory. Hey, but as called the clouds of glory went around all the Jewish people equally. It didn't measure out and said more clouds for this one or that one. It was a makif power. It was a surrounding energy. It was a light without any boundaries or limitations that is attributed to Aaron. And this is indicative of what Aaron stands for. Loving peace, pursuing peace, and bringing the people, even those far away, close to Hashem and His Torah. And this emphasized the point of Achdus, the point of unity, above any separation for all the given. one of the very powerful things about Aaron upon. Yesh Lomar, Yud, as we move along. And this is also hindered by the name of Aaron. Har Aharoin, who in Ahava, Hakdemas Shala Aleph. Aharon, we see, begins with an Aleph, Aharoin. Mura'al Shresh Ha'ava, which is a source of love. Aleph Shlifnei Hahar, the Aleph that becomes before Ahar in his name, is taken apart as his name. Hele Shlochein Ha'ava Hu Ha'ava Rabba, which is referring to an abundance of love that he has. And this is the difference between the kindness of Aaron, the kindness of Abraham, and the love of Aaron. Even though they both come from the right side, which represents kindness and love. Nevertheless, the power of kindness that came from Avram Avinu came through the Seder Hishtalshelus, through the chain of creation, and it was measured or limited, if you will, based on who's receiving it, if you will, based on their capacity to receive, you could say. But the power of love and kindness that came from Aaron was a love and kindness that is above Hishtalshelus, meaning above any type of measured or bound reality, which takes a reckoning for what the person is able to receive. Okay, just going to the Rosh Tevis of his name, showing again the kindness of Abraham, of Aaron Cohen, was even higher than the kindness and love of Avram Avinu. Okay, Yudov, Pratis Yosser, now more specifically. The love of Aaron is emphasized through the unification of the two lines of drawing down and lifting up. And we see this power as it flows through the Baruch HaKohanim, the Kohanim blessings. It's one of the mitzvahs of the Torah for the Kohanim to bless the congregation. We see in America, it's on Yom Tov, in Eretz Israel every day, at least in Yerushalayim, depends where you are, but called tefillah min atfilas should be done. And the advantage of the blessing of the Kohanim is that they have the advantage of prayer, which draws down from above to below. Of a bracha, which is drawing down godly energy from above to below, and the power of prayer, which elevates from below to above. And the Kohen Bracha balances both of these together, the power, the godly energy from above and from below. When we see a bracha, we're drawing down divine energy from above. When we're praying to Hashem, we're taking the energy from below and elevating it above to God. And we see that the Kohen Bracha it's called the Bracha HaMishloshis. It's 3 sections to it, because 3, as we learn, you have 1 talking about from above to below, well, the second from below to above, and the third unifying them together. And we see that Aaron passed specifically when he was 123 years old. We see the completion of 100 years and of 20 years. Shemabo, Hayoim Ma'al, you may have a Shenesi, Kamoshkos of Yayoim, you may Ma'aya, Hayoy, Shlosha Shenim. Shmispar Shlosha Shenim, Murumas, Kalavas, Avodas, Viachat base, Kavin, okay, fine. Your base. I'll be say, Yoish, Leish, Labor, Hakashtur, Hasharakas, Dargas, Avodas, Aroin, the Yami, Stapu, Sayim, Khodesh, and Khamish, Echad, the Khodesh. And we see the advantage, the fact that Aaron passed away on the 5th month, on the first day of the month. Chodesh Hamishi, 5th month. Kashur Bashayich, the Dargas, Hamishi, Shulman, Misalkus, Beseri, Starshus, Hamisha, the Farai, meaning the Harmain, like we talked about before. The number 5 is indicative of a number of power and strength, even above measurement or boundaries. And also the first of the month. Kashur Bashayich, the Dargas, Achlu, Shulman, Misalkus. Mudgash Gam Yimini Shal Rosh Chodesh Yom Echad Shlomo Yisachos L'Chem L'Chol Yimei Chodesh. We see that the number 1, which is for Rosh Chodesh, is a number that there's no opposition. There's nothing to oppose it. So we also see the advantage of the number 1 together with the number 5, referring to the day he was passed and the month that he passed. Yesh L'Marsh Torah HaKasuvas the papers to stop L'Shaharoim. Hayise b'chodesh chamishi v'echad l'chodesh merumezes hanukuda ha'ik v'yistakol masar v'torah savarodas ha'ashra v'erkol yimei chayav echad shlemar misalchos shum echad kachiluk hadorah b'heimon v'lechi v'ufani ha'bora v'hamshachah v'ha'ala v'brachas kani v'zeheim v'relach tusukah hiluchi v'daragas shivarei Yisrael mudgashes v'ikavod ha'kavoisai v'vodas v'miachad Ohev shalom v'dev shalom calls them as I did dargas she'ena ve'erach lechiluk hadargas darach chamisha. Okay, Shabbat Nikaras Sheikh the Kavim saying that, just emphasizing the number 5 again, how there's it's the highest. There's 3 fixes 1 and 2 and 4 combines them, and then 5 is completely done. And the Rebbe says, this is a preparation for the upcoming month of Elul, which is Ani Ladori V'Dodi Lian, to my beloved, and my beloved is to me, the month of Tshuva. Do you believe it? It's hard to imagine. We're 1 month away from Elul, 2 months away from Rosh Hashanah. This year evaporated. All I know is the Rebbe promises, Reino Nifalot, the year I will show you wonders. And excuse me for saying, but it doesn't really appear to be such a wonderful year so far. I'm not talking for me personally. Baruch Hashem, I'm very blessed. I'm talking for what Am Yisrael is going through and the world is going through. It's a very, very troubling time. So we need to see the promise of the Rebbe that it needs to be revealed. The wonders need to be revealed. Okay, fine. Now we have another asterisk, and we're changing up our sequence of thought once more. Yud Gimel. And everything we said above has to lead to deed. Actuality. Gam Sefer Hamishi. Excuse me. The Rebbe says we're literally standing at the end of the 4th book of the Torah, the beginning of the 5th book, and the beginning of the 5th month, which is indicative of the strength and the power of the 3rd temple connected to saying Chazak, Chazak 3 times. And 5, is connected to a level of godly energy completely removed from everything, where it emphasizes and the importance of emphasizing the point of unity in everything. And we see this through the work and activities of Aaron. It says, like in Perkei Avos, be like the students of Aaron. You should love peace and pursue peace, and bring those that are far away close to the Torah. And this must be done by revealing the point of unity that we all share, that is above any separation. And the Mishnah says that not that it would be nice to be like the students of Aaron, but you shall. It's a commandment that we have to act like this. We have to be like this. It's an actual commandment from Hashem that we have to raise up students like Aaron that love peace and pursue peace and do everything possible to bring others back to Torah, back to their roots. And it says it's not enough to raise up one student. We have to raise up a multitude of students. The Rebbe says we have to use power of bli gvul, not just enough to do all of your power, but we must gather together and put forces together and use power of bli gvul from many of our powers together. And this will add on and hasten the coming of the true and complete redemption. Where the galus will not only be nullified, but all the good things in our work in the galus will be revealed as good. And we are standing at the threshold of the redemption. And for sure, we're at the very end of the exile. And therefore, we must emphasize the importance of true Ahavas Yisrael, love for one another. And we see in the true and complete redemption, it will be revealed this period of unity and oneness that is above any separation or division. And this is a fifth level we're talking about, where all of us are one. And that we're all sparks from Moshiach, who is the Yechida Klalit, the general soul for all of us. Torah. And then the new Torah will be revealed and come out from Hashem. Yud Dalet. Wow, we're definitely going to finish early tonight. Nice. It's almost done. It's short sikha. And this is connected also with what it says in the Mishnah Masechta Zavos, Perches Hashem Zul. Rabbi Shimon Omer, that we must be careful in the recitation of Kiryat Shema and of tefillah and pray. Rabbi Shimon Mishnah Sahi, Rabbi Shimon ben Nathaniel, Shimon no, the Filizah, Ben Chamish Tamidaim, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zachai, Chamish Hamshak Lazah, Boyam Mamrehem, Behim Amrush Loshad Varim, and Ikra. Kan Rabbi Shimon is going through the Mishnah. I'm going to skip this letter, even though we're making very good time right now, because it's just whatever. I hate saying this because everything is super important, but it's just going through the importance of the Mishnah of the different influences of all those mentioned. Let's move ahead on Test Vav and finish up for an early landing tonight. Nice. Oh, we got two more letters. Test 5 and Test 9. Okay. And we see, and it says, as it's connected to above, and it's connected to these 9 days that we must complete in our siyum. We're supposed to make siyums, even though it is not our custom in Lubavitch to drink wine or eat meat at a siyum. We still need to add in siyums completions of tractates of the Torah to add in celebration and joy during these 9 days. To increase in our joy of the Torah by doing a siyum. Simcha the Gemara Shal Torah Dugma Dugmasai V'Siyum HaMesektas, the completion of a Mesekta. Azicha Deraz Ona Shalemas Ona Avos Rab Ban. That everyone must participate in these siyums, even young children. Okay, so we have to increase in making siyums in commensurating the end of the learning of a tractate of the Gemara or the Mishnah, to add in the joy of the Torah, and everyone should attend those men, women, and children. Tazayin, V'hiratzon may be Hashem's will. That by pronouncing our good resolutions and everything we learned above, this alone, just taking upon good resolutions, should hasten and bring forth immediately the true and complete redemption in the third temple. A pashtus in a simple way. In addition to already the completion of all the individual 42 journeys in the desert, Ha'amim amongst the nations, Shizman Hagolus in the time of the exile, Ma'amdim, Kavar, Yarden, Yerecha, and we're coming and crossing the Yarden River. Ma'avar, the Yarden, Yerecha, Kadmar, Zricha, steadily going across. And we'll all enter into Eretz Israel. Yerushalayim HaKodesh, the holy city of Jerusalem, to the base of Migdash Shlishi, to the Kodesh Kadoshim, where we will find there Aaron and the Luchos, the Kitzel and the and the righteous will get up and dance from the dust. Moshe and Aaron amongst them, Akal Tzaddikim and all the Tzaddikim and all the leaders, and the Frierdiker Rebbe, Yichadin Neshamas of Guf and Kol Bnei Israel, and all the Jewish people who've lived, souls and bodies. And all the Jewish people in our generation, complete souls and bodies, are young and are old, their sons and their daughters. Together we will all go, and we will all learn the new Torah that's going to come out from Hashem. And the Rav Moshe will literally be learning from Moshe himself and all the Jewish people together. Before we go, the most important thing, it should take place and be revealed immediately. Chazak, manit chazek. I will see you all in the base of Migdash.